guys, it's Cece, and today I am going to be doing a review. So I am very excited to be doing a review today, and the book that I have chosen to review is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I read this book at the beginning of October and absolutely loved it, and I was definitely inspired to do a review for you all because this has probably become one of my new favorite books, and I just wanted to be able to tell you about it. This review is also spurred on by the fact that while I was reading the book, V.E. Schwab, aka Victoria Schwab, announced that Vicious is going to be getting a sequel, which is a huge deal, and I am very, very excited about it because I definitely want more of this book, so I'm very excited that there's going to be a sequel, and let's just get into the review, starting with a summary. Vicious is an adult fantasy book which follows Victor and Eli, who are friends that started out as college roommates. In college, Victor and Eli were incredibly drawn to each other. They were both geniuses, and they both shared an all-consuming ambitious spark. And together, they were working on how, under the right circumstances, you could give a person extraordinary abilities. Somehow, shockingly, this all goes terribly wrong. 10 years later, Victor breaks out of prison determined to find Eli again, only this time they will face one another as enemies. So this book is often marketed as something that if you enjoy the X-Men, you will really enjoy Vicious, and I definitely got that in the book. It definitely comes across as very X-Men and sort of superpowers, best friends to enemies. It's definitely the same kind of dynamic that you get from Professor X and Magneto, I guess, from the X-Men. So if you really enjoy the X-Men, definitely read this book. If you don't love the X-Men, pick the book up anyway. So first of all, I want to talk about the characters in this book because they are incredible. Finding characters as dark and as layered as the characters in Vicious is so difficult, and I absolutely loved it. Victor and Eli especially are both very morally dark or morally gray characters, which I think is a description that applies to most of the characters in the book, but definitely especially Victor and Eli. It's very interesting and definitely an anti-hero kind of storyline because you are supposed to sort of root for Victor, but at the same time, he does some really morally apprehensible things that kind of make it difficult to like him, but also make him such a fascinating and real character, and I absolutely loved that. I also loved how layered and dark Eli was, and how he was allowed to be morally, because I thought he was an incredibly interesting character, and it made me even more invested in the storyline because I wasn't sure what he would do next, and he definitely freaked me out. And so I thought that the fact that all of the characters were in this sort of gray, in-between, dark area, it made the book so much more fascinating to read because there was not really a white hat to root for, the sort of perfect person that you had to root for, because sometimes they exist in books and they seem a bit ridiculous to expect in this world that there will be one perfect person to root for. So I absolutely loved the characters in this book, and this does not just apply to the main characters. The side characters in Vicious were also spot on and absolutely fantastic. I loved the little quirks and oddities that they were given, and I thought that they were incredibly strong characters. They provided these side storylines that were just as enthralling and interesting as the main storyline, and that is another reason that it kept me reading so quickly and turning every page, because even though they all had these good aspects but also all of these bad aspects, I cared about all of them, and that is such an impressive thing to achieve writing-wise. Next, I want to talk about the plot of the book. The plot of the book was amazing. It was all very tight, very compact, and all of the stuff that takes place in the present day is only within about 3 or 4 days of time, which I thought was really interesting and also done very well, because even though the book was sort of littered with flashbacks, these flashbacks didn't feel like they were dragging down the main plot. I felt like I was equally interested in both the flashback and the current day, and that they were both going at a speed that really complemented one another, so the plot was really excellent. Throughout the book, I wasn't really sure where she was going to end, but I thought that the ending was a really nice way of wrapping it up and sort of putting the pieces in place for a possible sequel, but you could also see it as kind of open-ended. So I'm really glad that the book is getting a sequel, but this book could have just been its own self-contained thing, but yes, no, I want the sequel immediately. Also, I just finally want to mention that the writing in this book is fantastic. I mean, of course you can guess that from the way I'm raving about it. The writing of the characters was superb, clearly, because I loved all of the characters. The plot was very interesting. Dialogue was so tight and so specific for each character. This book switches points of view, not first person, but it does switch kind of where you're getting the story from, and they're all very distinct and very easy to read. And it's so interesting kind of how the narration changes based on who you're reading about, which I think is very impressive and very awesome. And I would definitely say that the writing in this book inspired me to go out and pick up other V.E. Schwab or other Victoria Schwab books, because she does write under both names, so I definitely want to go and look in general at the rest of her writing, because this book was absolutely fantastic. I loved this book. I completely tore through it. It took me like maybe 4 days to read it. It would have taken less, but you know, school happens. I cannot wait to read a sequel. I definitely wanted one. As soon as I finished it, I was like, oh yes, of course this book needs a sequel. Of course I would love to read more in this world. So V.E. Schwab, spectacularly well done. This book was absolutely amazing. Alright guys, that is my review of Vicious. If you have read the book, please leave below what you thought of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this book that I absolutely loved. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars overall, just to give you an idea of how much I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. So let me know what you thought of it, and of course, thank you for watching this review, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!